The twin suns of Cora 7 burned hot above the alien slave market. The air smelled of iron, smoke, and fear. Hundreds of cages stood in long rows, filled with creatures from across the galaxy. Some had scales, some had wings, some had eyes glowing like fire. But all of them were silent, waiting to be sold. In one of the smallest cages sat a girl. Her skin was pale silver, her eyes dull and empty. She looked no older than 17. Chains wrapped around her arms and ankles as if she were dangerous, but in truth she was weak. Too weak even to stand. The auctioneer, a tall alien with sharp teeth and 6 arms, pointed at her and shouted, "Next! A rejected product. She is worthless but cheap. Who will take her?" The crowd laughed. Some aliens hissed. Others shouted insults. "Too thin." One voice jeered. "She looks broken." Another spat. "She will not survive 1 season," a third declared. The girl lowered her head. She had heard the same words again and again. Every time she was put up for sale, the result was the same. No one wanted her. The auctioneer pulled her forward, dragging her by the chain. "Look at her. She has no strength, no skill, no beauty. Even the mines would spit her out. Who will offer 1 credit?" "Just 1." But no hand rose, the auctioneer growled. His sharp teeth clicked together in anger. Again rejected. Again useless. Perhaps I should throw her to the beasts. The girl closed her eyes. Maybe it was better to be eaten than to live like this. She had stopped dreaming of freedom long ago. She had stopped believing anyone would ever see her as more than trash. Then, silence. From the crowd, a single figure stepped forward. He was not tall compared to the aliens. He had no scales, no wings, no horns. His skin was plain, his body looked soft, and his eyes were the color of storm clouds. "A human," the crowd murmured. Some laughed. "A human? What is he doing here?" The auctioneer sneered. You? You want to buy this useless one?" The human's voice was calm, almost quiet, but it carried across the market. "Yes," the laughter grew louder. "Strange creatures, these humans. Always collecting junk. Why waste money on her?" He must be a fool. But the human did not look at them. His eyes were fixed on the girl. She blinked. For the first time, someone was not looking at her with disgust or anger or pity. His eyes were steady, searching, almost curious. The auctioneer barked. "1 credit then. She is yours, human. Take the trash." The chains were released and she stumbled forward, almost falling. The human caught her arm gently, supporting her as if she were fragile glass. She stared at him, confused. Why would anyone, let alone a human, waste even a single coin on her? He leaned close and whispered words only she could hear. "Because I see something they cannot." Her heart skipped. She wanted to ask, "What do you see?" But her throat was dry and no sound came. The human placed a small cloak around her shoulders. It was simple, worn but warm. No one had ever given her anything before. As they turned to leave the market, an old alien, hunched and covered in scars, called out to the human. His voice was like gravel. "You should not take her. She carries death. Mark my words, human, she will bring you death." The human stopped for just a second. Then he smiled faintly, almost as if the warning was a challenge. He said nothing and walked on. The girl's legs shook as they left the market behind. She expected chains, orders, punishment, but instead he guided her gently through the crowd. The noise of the market faded behind them, but the words of the old alien echoed in her mind. "She will bring you death." What did that mean? Why had he said it? And why? Why had this human chosen her when everyone else had rejected her? The girl did not know it yet, but this was the day her life would change forever. The galaxy believed she was weak, broken, useless, but hidden inside her was something far greater, something powerful, something dangerous, and soon the whole galaxy would know her name. The girl walked beside the human, her thin legs trembling as they left the slave market. The noise of the crowd still echoed behind them. Laughter, mockery, and that old alien's warning. "She will bring you death." The words pressed heavy in her chest. She wanted to ask him why he bought her, but fear closed her mouth. She had learned long ago that asking questions often led to pain. The human, however, walked calmly, his cloak swaying with each step. His expression was unreadable. He looked forward, not at her, not at the aliens around them. It was as if he had already decided something, and nothing in the galaxy could change his mind. When they reached the edge of the market, the girl finally whispered, "Why, me?" Her voice cracked, dry like dust. She expected him to ignore her. But he turned his head slightly and his storm-gray eyes met hers. Because, he said softly, you are not what they think you are. She frowned. I am weak. I am nothing, he shook his head. They only see chains. I see something else. The girl lowered her eyes. She did not understand. Nobody had ever spoken to her like this. Nobody had ever believed she could be more than a slave. As they walked through the busy streets of the spaceport, many aliens stared. Some laughed openly. Others whispered behind their hands, look at the human, he wasted his money. He took the broken one. Humans are fools, always saving the weak. The girl felt shame burn in her chest. She wanted to hide her face. But the human walked without fear, without shame. His steady pace made her wonder, did he really not care what the others thought? Finally, they reached a docking bay. Inside rested a small starship. Its hull was old but strong, scratched by travel, yet still gleaming faintly under the lights. The human led her inside. For the first time in her life, she entered a ship not as cargo, but as something else. He guided her to a chair and said, sit. She sat slowly, expecting orders, expecting harsh words. Instead, he brought her water and food. Real food. Warm bread, cooked meat, and fruit that smelled sweet. Her hands shook. She stared at the meal, unsure if it was a trick. For me? She asked. For you, he replied. Eat. Her eyes filled with tears. She had eaten scraps all her life. She had never been offered food with kindness. Cautiously, she took a bite. The taste exploded in her mouth, strange and wonderful. She wanted to eat everything at once, but his calm gaze made her slow down. While she ate, he sat across from her. Silent, watching. Not with hunger, not with anger, but with quiet patience. Finally, he spoke. Do you know why no one bought you? Her hand froze. Because I am useless. No, he said firmly. Because they are afraid. Her head snapped up. Afraid of me? Yes, he leaned forward. They see only weakness. But I see something else. A shadow of power hidden deep. They do not understand it, so they call you worthless. But he paused. I see potential, she trembled. Nobody had ever said such words to her. Power? Potential? It sounded like a dream, she whispered. If that is true, then why help me? Why not use me like the others would? The human's eyes softened. Because you are not a tool. You are not a weapon. You are a person, and you should be free to choose your path. The word free struck her like lightning. Freedom was a word she had never dared to imagine. Before she could speak again, alarm suddenly blared across the ship. A red light flashed above their heads. The human stood quickly, his calm face turning sharp. He checked the screen. Raiders, he muttered. They must have followed us from the market. The girl's heart raced. On the monitor, 3 ships appeared, circling like hungry wolves. Stay here, the human ordered. He moved to the cockpit and began preparing the ship. Engines roared to life and the small vessel lifted from the docking bay. Through the window, the girl saw the raiders closing in. Their ships were black and jagged, armed with heavy guns. The human's hands moved quickly across the controls. The starship shook as lasers flashed past. He maneuvered sharply, dodging fire, but the raiders were faster. One ship struck their side, sending sparks across the cabin. The girl cried out, gripping the chair. We cannot escape. The human's jaw tightened. We will. He pressed a button, and 2 hidden cannons unfolded from the ship's wings. With precise aim, he fired, hitting one raider. The enemy ship exploded in a burst of fire. The girl gasped. She had never seen such skill. But 2 raiders remained, and they were closing fast. The human kept his calm, but she could see sweat on his forehead. He was strong, but he was only one man. The ship shook violently as another blast struck them. Lights flickered. The engines groaned. The girl felt something stir inside her. A heat in her chest, a whisper in her mind. You were not made to be a slave. Her vision blurred. Her hands glowed faintly, silver light leaking from her skin. She gasped, looking at her trembling fingers. What was happening to her? The human glanced back, his eyes widening slightly. He saw the glow, the shimmer of hidden power, and for the first time he smiled. I was right, he whispered. You are not what they think you are. The girl's heart pounded. She had no idea what this power was or why it had awakened now, but she knew one thing. Her life would never be the same, and the raiders were about to find out. The girl's hands glowed brighter. silver light pouring from her skin like fire made of stars. She stared in shock. She had never seen this before, never felt this power. Her breath quickened and fear twisted inside her chest. What? What is happening to me? She whispered. The human did not look afraid. His storm gray eyes locked onto hers. Don't fight it. Let it come. But how could she? She had no idea what this power was or how to control it. Outside the ship, the two remaining raiders fired again. The cabin shook violently and sparks fell from the ceiling. Warning lights flashed red. The ship was badly damaged. The girl's body trembled, but the light inside her grew stronger. It spread from her hands to her arms, then across her whole body, wrapping her in a faint silver glow. The human's voice was calm, steady, even as danger closed in. They think you are weak. Show them they are wrong, her mind screamed in confusion. I don't know how. I can't. But another voice whispered inside her head. A voice not her own. It was quiet, deep, almost ancient. You were not made for chains. You were made for choice. She raised her glowing hands without thinking. The silver light pulsed, spilling into the air like a wave. Outside, the nearest raider's weapons froze. Its engines sputtered. The ship shook as if caught in invisible hands. Then, with a flash of light, it exploded. The girl gasped and fell back in her chair, panting. She had done that. Somehow she had destroyed a raider ship with nothing but the power inside her. The human's lips curved into a small, proud smile. Good, but there was no time to rest. The last raider roared past them, guns blazing. The human twisted the controls, dodging most of the fire, but a blast struck the side. The ship spun wildly. The girl clung to her seat, fear mixing with exhaustion. She wanted to use the power again, but her body felt weak, drained. The silver light flickered around her skin. The human's hands moved quickly, fighting to stabilize the ship. His voice cut through the alarms. Listen to me. The power is part of you, but you must not let it burn you out. Use only what you can control. She nodded weakly, though she barely understood. The raider circled back, preparing to finish them. Its shadow loomed across the stars. The human's eyes narrowed. He whispered under his breath, "Not today." With a sharp movement, he sent the ship diving downward, spinning into a narrow asteroid field. Giant rocks floated in the darkness, jagged and sharp like teeth. The raider followed, firing wildly, but the asteroids blocked many shots. The human twisted the ship between the rocks with impossible skill, moving as if he had flown this path 1,000 times before. The girl could barely breathe. Every turn felt like death was inches away. Yet the human's hands were steady, his eyes focused. Behind them, the raider clipped an asteroid. Its wing cracked, but it still pursued. The human muttered, "Persistent fool." Then he turned to her, his voice firm. "You must finish this." One last push, her heart pounded. She was weak, tired, but she could feel the power still burning deep inside, waiting to be called. She closed her eyes. She remembered the voice. Not a slave, not nothing. Choose. Her body glowed again, brighter this time, silver light flooding the cabin. The raider locked its weapons on them, preparing to fire. But before it could shoot, the girl raised her hands and released the light. The raider ship froze mid-space. Its metal frame groaned, bending under invisible force. With a flash, it shattered into pieces, fire and debris scattering across the asteroid field. Silence fell. The only sound was the ship's engines and her heavy breathing. She slumped forward, exhausted, her glow fading. The human glanced at her, his face calm but his eyes sharp with interest. "Now I know why they feared you." Her voice was weak. "What am I?" He did not answer at once. He looked at the stars outside as if searching for the right words. Finally, he said, "You are more than what they told you, more than what they wanted you to believe. You are dangerous, yes, but also free." The girl shivered. Dangerous. Free. Two words she had never thought could belong to her. The human adjusted the ship's course, guiding it out of the asteroid field. The alarms faded and the stars opened wide before them. She leaned back, closing her eyes. Every part of her body ached. She felt empty, drained, yet somehow alive in a way she had never known before. The human spoke again, quieter this time. "The galaxy will hunt you now. That power of yours, they will not let it go. They will chase us. They will try to take you." Her chest tightened. "Then why save me?" He looked at her. His gray eyes were steady, strong, because no one deserves chains. And because, he paused, almost smiling. Because I believe in you. Her throat ached with emotion. Nobody had ever said such words to her. The ship glided into the darkness of space. For the first time in her life, she was not being dragged, not being sold, not being mocked. For the first time, she was moving toward something unknown, something that felt like hope. But the words of the old alien at the market still echoed in her mind. She will bring you death. The girl touched her trembling hands, still remembering the silver glow. She did not know if her power was a gift or a curse, but one thing was certain: her journey had just begun. The stars stretched endlessly outside the ship's window. The girl sat in silence, her silver hair falling across her tired face. Her hand still trembled. Remembering the light that had poured from them, she had destroyed 2 raider ships with nothing but her own power. But instead of pride, she felt fear. She whispered almost to herself, "What am I?" The human stood near the cockpit, adjusting controls, watching the stars shift as the ship traveled faster than light. His storm gray eyes flickered toward her. "That is the question the galaxy will ask when they learn about you." Her stomach twisted. So they were right. "I am dangerous, dangerous." He turned and walked closer, his steps slow, steady. "Yes, but danger is not evil. Fire is dangerous too. Yet without fire there is no light, no warmth." His words made her chest tighten. No one had ever spoken of her in such a way. To others she was trash, weakness, nothing. But to him she was something else. The girl lowered her gaze. "If I am fire, then I can burn you too." The human smiled faintly, though his eyes remained serious. "Maybe, but I have already decided. I will take that risk." She did not understand him. Why risk anything for her? Why believe in her? The questions swirled in her mind, heavy and sharp. Hours passed. The ship drifted silently through space. The human guided it to a hidden planet far from trade routes. It was a desert world, dry and quiet, its surface covered in golden sands and black stone. They landed near a canyon. Heat shimmered in the air as they stepped outside. The girl squinted against the sun. "Why are we here?" The human carried a small case in his hand. He set it down and opened it, revealing simple weapons: staffs, small blades, and practice tools. "Because," he said, "you must learn to use what is inside you. If you do not, it will control you instead." Her chest tightened. "But I don't know how." He handed her a short staff. "Then we will learn together." At first she resisted. The staff felt heavy in her weak hands. She stumbled, fell, and failed again and again. The human showed her how to stand, how to balance, how to breathe. "Strength is not in your arms," he said. "It is here." He touched his chest. "It begins inside before it shows outside." The girl tried again. Her body was weak, but slowly her movements grew less clumsy. She began to feel a rhythm in her steps, a focus in her breath. Still, her doubts gnawed at her. "Why teach me? You could have left me. You could have sold me like the others." The human's face hardened. "Because the galaxy will hunt you. And if you remain unprepared, they will chain you again. Or worse." She froze. "Worse?" "Yes," he said quietly. "Some will fear your power. Others will try to use it, and some will try to kill you before you can understand it yourself." Her heart pounded. She remembered the crowd at the market, the whispers, the old alien's warning. She felt the weight of invisible eyes across the stars. The human looked at her, steady as always. "That is why you must choose. Stay weak and they will own you. Or learn strength and you will own yourself." The word struck deep. Own herself. Could she truly do that? Days passed on the desert world. Each morning the human trained her. He taught her how to move, how to fight, how to listen to her heartbeat. At night, under the endless stars, he spoke of freedom. "Freedom is not given," he told her. "It is taken. Claimed. You must want it more than anything else." She thought of her chains, her cages, the laughter of the crowd. Slowly, something new began to grow inside her, something stronger than fear. But with each day, her strange power also stirred. Sometimes when her emotions rose, her skin flickered with silver light. Rocks cracked under her touch. Winds shifted around her. One night, as the desert winds howled outside their camp, she confessed, "It frightens me. I don't want this power. I never asked for it." The human studied her quietly, then said, "Power does not ask. It simply is. What matters is not that you have it, but what you choose to do with it." His words stayed with her. On the fourth day, everything changed. A small ship landed in the canyon. Armed mercenaries stepped out, their armor dark, their weapons glowing. Their leader, a tall alien with 4 red eyes, shouted across the sand, "The girl is ours. Hand her over, human, and we will let you live." The girl froze. Her chest tightened. Already they had come for her. The desert world was quiet again. The mercenaries lay scattered in the sand, broken by the girl's power. The human guided her back to the ship. She was still shaking, her skin pale and her eyes wide. She whispered, "They will never stop, will they?" The human glanced at her as the ship's doors closed. "No, not until they have you in chains again. Or dead." Her chest tightened. A shadow of fear returned. She wanted to believe his words about freedom, about choice. But the galaxy already hunted her. For several days they drifted through empty space, keeping to hidden paths and old routes only smugglers knew. The girl slowly healed her strength. At night she dreamed of glowing light and burning ships. Sometimes she woke with tears in her eyes, unsure if her power was truly a gift or a curse. The human never pressured her. He trained her still, but gently. He showed her how to breathe, how to keep her mind calm, how to listen to silence. Yet even as he guided her, the ship's supplies grew low. Food ran thin, fuel almost empty. They needed help. The human tapped a signal into the console. "We'll visit an old ally," he said. "Someone who owes me more than one favor." The girl frowned. "Can they be trusted?" The human's eyes narrowed slightly. "That is what we will see." They landed on a mining station orbiting a dying star. Rust covered its walls and the air smelled of oil and smoke. The place felt like a graveyard, alive only because smugglers and thieves had nowhere else to go. A man waited for them in the docking bay. He was tall, with scars across his face and a grin that seemed too sharp. His name was Varric. The human clasped his arm, their greeting strong but cautious. "It's been years," the human said. Varric's grin widened. "And yet you are still alive. Miracles do happen." His eyes drifted to the girl. He studied her closely, curiosity flickering in his gaze. The girl lowered her head, uneasy. Varric led them into the station, offering food and shelter. His voice was friendly, but the girl's stomach twisted. Something about him felt wrong. That night, as the human checked the ship's repairs, the girl overheard voices outside the docking bay. She crept closer, her bare feet silent on the cold floor. Varric's voice was low but sharp. "Yes, I have her. The human brought her here himself. Send the payment and she's yours." Her heart dropped. Betrayal. Her hands shook, a faint glow sparking at her fingertips. She wanted to burst inside and burn him where he stood. But fear held her still. If she acted too soon, she might fail. She ran back to the ship. "We must leave," she hissed to the human. "It's a trap. Varric is selling me." The human's expression darkened, though not with surprise. "I thought he might." "You knew?" she whispered. He gave a small nod. "Old debts run deep. Greed runs deeper." They tried to leave, but too late. Armed guards flooded the bay, blocking the exits. Varric stepped forward, smiling cruelly. "Don't take it personally," he told the human. "A bounty like hers is worth more than 10 lifetimes. You should thank me." "I'll let you walk away." The human's jaw tightened. "You always were a coward, Varric," Varric sneered. "And you always were a fool." He pointed at the girl. "Take her." The guards raised their weapons. The girl's breath quickened. Her body trembled. She felt the power stir, but her fear clouded her focus. The human moved fast, his staff spinning as he struck the nearest guard. Sparks flew as weapons clashed. "Run!" he shouted to her, but she couldn't leave him. Her skin flickered with silver light, but the guards pressed closer. One blast struck the human's side. He staggered, blood staining his cloak. "Human!" she cried, her voice breaking. He gritted his teeth, pushing forward, fighting despite the wound. "Focus, don't let fear control you." Tears blurred her vision. She raised her hands, silver light growing brighter. The guard shouted in panic as the glow filled the bay. With a scream, she released it. A wave of light exploded outward. Weapons shattered, armor cracked, and every guard fell to the ground, stunned. Varric himself stumbled back, his grin gone, his eyes wide with terror. The girl collapsed to her knees, gasping, her body weak. The human staggered toward her, clutching his wound. His voice was strained but firm. "Good, you chose." "You fought," Varric hissed, backing away. "You don't understand what she is. You don't understand what you're protecting. She'll bring you ruin, human. She'll bring death to us all. The human's gray eyes locked on him, cold and steady. Better death than chains. With one last strike of his staff, he knocked Varric unconscious. They dragged themselves back to the ship. The human collapsed into the pilot's seat, his hand pressed against his bleeding side. The girl hovered near him, panic rising. "You're hurt. Because of me." He shook his head. "Because of them." "Not you," her heart ached. She wanted to believe him, but the image of his blood burned in her mind. She had power, yes, but it could not heal him. It could only destroy. As the ship lifted from the mining station, leaving Varric and his betrayal behind, the girl whispered, "I won't let them take me. I won't let them hurt you again. I promise." Her hands glowed faintly, not from fear this time, but from determination. For the first time, she was not only protecting herself, she was protecting him too, and deep inside she knew this was only the beginning of something far greater. The ship drifted silently through the void, its engines humming like a tired heart. Inside, the human sat at the controls, his side bandaged but still bleeding. His storm-gray eyes were focused, steady as always, but his skin was pale. The girl stayed beside him, refusing to leave his side. Her hands trembled as she pressed the bandage tighter. "You saved me again," she whispered. "But at what cost?" The human gave a faint smile, though pain pulled at his face. "A wound is nothing. Chains are worse." His words struck her deep. For a moment she almost believed him, but then the guilt returned. Every enemy came for her. Every danger followed her. He bled because she existed. They hid on the edges of a barren moon, far from patrol routes. Days passed in uneasy silence. The human rested, though he still trained her when he could, his voice calm even when his body shook. "Your power is not your enemy," he told her one night as the stars shone outside the ship's window. "Your fear is. You must choose how to use it. That choice will decide everything." She stared at her glowing hands. "What if I choose wrong?" "Then you learn," he answered simply. "That is what freedom is. The right to fail. The right to rise again." The word freedom echoed in her mind. It was still strange, almost impossible. She had lived so long in chains that the idea of choosing felt heavier than any shackle. But the galaxy did not give her time to think. A broadcast reached their ship. It filled the cabin with static, then a booming alien voice. "Attention. A bounty has been placed on the silver-haired girl. Her capture is worth more than an empire. Any who deliver her will be rich beyond measure." Her chest tightened. The screen flickered, showing her face, taken from the market, her eyes downcast, chains around her arms. The image of her weakness now spread across the stars. She gasped. "They've put a price on me. Everyone will come." The human's expression hardened. "Then we must move faster." But inside she felt something else, anger. Anger at being hunted, mocked, and treated as a prize. She clenched her fists. "I'm tired of running." Their next stop was a hidden outpost where rebels traded stolen goods. The human hoped to find supplies, but the moment they stepped inside, whispers followed them. Eyes turned toward her. "That's her," someone muttered. "The bounty girl. Worth more than a planet." She felt every stare like a knife. Her steps faltered. The human placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was calm but firm. "Hold your head up. They see a bounty, but you are more than that." Yet the crowd pressed closer. Greed glowed in their eyes. Finally, a group of armed aliens blocked their path. Their leader sneered. "Hand her over, human. No need for blood. We just want the prize." The human's grip tightened on his staff. "Step aside," the aliens laughed. "You think you can fight us all?" The girl's heart raced. Fear swelled inside her, but beneath it anger flared brighter. She stepped forward before the human could move. "No," she said, her voice shaking but strong. "You will not take me." Silver light erupted from her body, flooding the outpost with brilliance. The crowd gasped, shielding their eyes. The leader stumbled back, fear twisting his face. "You see?" she shouted. "I am not your prize. I am not your slave. I am free." The power surged, lifting tables, weapons, even stones from the ground. With a wave of her hand, she sent them crashing aside. The crowd scattered, terrified. The human watched her, silent but proud. When the outpost cleared, the girl fell to her knees, exhausted but alive. She looked up at him, fear in her eyes. "Did I go too far?" He shook his head. "No, you chose. You chose to fight. And this time not for survival, but for freedom." Her chest ached with something new. Not fear, not shame, but strength. That night, as their ship drifted once more through the stars, she sat across from him, her voice quiet. "You were right. Power is not evil. It's choice. And I chose," he nodded. "And what did you choose?" She lifted her chin. Her silver eyes glowed faintly, no longer dull with fear, to never be in chains again, and to fight for others like me. For a long moment, silence filled the cabin. Then the human smiled faintly. "Then you are more dangerous than I imagined. Not because of your power, but because of your will." The girl looked at the stars, her heart beating steady. For the first time, she did not feel like prey. She felt like something more. But the galaxy had already heard her name. Already armies prepared to find her. Already shadows whispered that the slave girl had become a symbol. She did not know what battles waited ahead, but she knew one thing for certain. Her life was no longer running from chains, was running toward freedom. The ship drifted in silence, hidden in the shadows of a cold nebula. The girl sat near the window, watching the stars pulse faintly through the mist. Her silver hair shimmered under the dim light, and her hands rested calmly in her lap. She was no longer the broken creature from the market. No longer the rejected slave. Something inside her had changed, yet the galaxy had changed too. Every transmission spoke of her. Traders whispered in fear. Smugglers bragged of trying to find her, and soldiers sharpened their blades for the bounty. Her face was no longer hidden. It was everywhere. The human studied the maps spread across the console. His storm-gray eyes were steady, though his body was still healing from the wound. "They know who you are now," he said. "You cannot hide." Her chest tightened, but she did not look away from the stars. "Then let them come. I will not bow. Not anymore." Days later, their ship landed on a moon that housed an old rebel camp. The place was small, tents and rusted machines scattered under a steel sky. The rebels were desperate people hiding from empires that crushed them. When the girl stepped out of the ship, their eyes widened. "She is the one," someone whispered. "The girl with silver fire. The one who destroyed the raiders." She felt their stares, heavy and uncertain. But this time she did not lower her head. She met their eyes. The human stood beside her, silent. The rebel leader, a scarred woman with one mechanical arm, stepped forward. "Is it true? Do you have this power?" The girl hesitated, then lifted her hands. A soft glow shimmered from her skin, silver and bright. Gasps filled the air. The leader's eyes narrowed. "Do you mean to help us? Or to bring more death?" The girl took a deep breath. For so long she had been afraid of her answer. But now she spoke without trembling. "I choose freedom, not just for me, for anyone who was ever chained." The camp fell silent, and in that silence something shifted. Hope. But hope is dangerous. That night, shadows moved across the camp. The Empire had already tracked her here. Black ships descended from the sky, their engines roaring like thunder. Soldiers in iron armor marched into the desert, weapons glowing. The rebels panicked, scrambling to fight or flee. The human stood tall, his staff in hand. He looked at the girl. "This is the moment. You must decide. Run or rise," her heart pounded. She looked at the terrified rebels. She thought of her cage, her chains, her endless rejection, and then she thought of the human. His faith, his wounds, his belief that she could choose. She lifted her chin. "I will rise." The first wave of soldiers stormed into the camp. Blasters fired, tents burned. The rebels tried to fight, but they were outnumbered. The girl stepped forward, her eyes glowing silver. Light burst from her hands, forming a shield that blocked the fire. Gasps rang through the camp. "Protect her," the rebels shouted, but she shook her head. "No, I will protect you." She raised her hands, and the silver fire spread across the battlefield. Weapons melted, soldiers stumbled, blinded by light. The ground itself shook with her power. The human fought at her side, staff spinning, striking with precision. Together they moved like storm and fire. The Empire's commander, a massive alien with crimson armor, pointed his blade at her. "You are no savior. You are a weapon, and weapons must be owned." Her silver glow flared brighter. "I belong to no one." With a cry, she unleashed her power. The commander's blade shattered, his armor cracked, and he fell to the ground. The soldiers broke, retreating back to their ships in fear. The rebels cheered, voices echoing through the camp. For the first time in years, they had seen victory. When the battle ended, the girl collapsed to her knees, exhausted but alive. The human helped her to her feet, his gray eyes proud. "You chose well," he said softly. Her chest ached with tiredness, but her heart felt light. "I chose freedom, and I will keep choosing it." The rebels gathered around her, their faces filled with awe. The leader with the mechanical arm bowed her head. "You are no longer just a girl. You are a symbol." The girl looked at them, then at the human. "A symbol?" "Yes," the leader said. "The galaxy will hear of you." The slave who rose. The girl who defied chains. "They will call you Hope," her breath caught. She had been rejected, mocked, forgotten, and now they spoke of her as Hope. The human's voice was quiet but steady. "Then your journey has only begun." Later, as the stars rose over the moon, the girl stood alone, staring at the horizon. Her hands glowed faintly, not from fear, but from purpose. She whispered into the night as if speaking to the whole galaxy. "They tried to break me. They tried to chain me, but I am free, and I will fight for every soul they tried to own." Behind her, the human's voice carried like a shadow. Then the galaxy should tremble. And so it began. The girl was no longer a rejected slave. She was the spark of rebellion. She was the fire of freedom. And soon, her name would become a legend whispered in every corner of the stars.